Joining me is New South Wales Liberal Senator Holly Hughes in Canberra, former Victorian Labor MP Michael Danby and Sky News contributor Prue MacSween. Thank you for coming in.
Thanks, Smithy. Great to see you all.
Good evening, all.
I want to start with you, Holly, if I may.
Everyone.
Are there any circumstances under which the Labor government can change these stage 3 tax cuts?
Well, they're now starting to say that there'll be no changes to their position. I don't know, I'm feeling particularly confident that come the budget there won't be some alterations here. But I think what's important for all Australians to understand, the rhetoric around these are tax cuts for people earning $200,000 is significantly misleading. It's all Australians over $45,000 who are set to benefit from these stage 3 tax cuts. So Labor is yet again playing its class warfare game here by trying to pin it that somehow it's only going to impact people earning $200,000 a year, when that's simply not the case. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of nurses and teachers and other shift workers as well that are going to be impacted. If you look at the Hunter region, a lot of those miners up there are going to be impacted. A lot of Labor-held seat and aspirational voters are going to see this as an attack on them.
Michael, what's going on inside the Prime Minister's office here? I get the feeling that the rumours were rife on Friday to the state where many reporters, many commentators actually had details of the changes that were going to be made. And then he's just been very quiet and all of a sudden he's back saying the same thing. We're sticking with this. We haven't changed our mind. Do you think trust and the delicate nature of breaching a promise so early in your term is what they're thinking that he can't do?
I think they were flying a kite. They probably did polling over the last few days to see that it was unpopular. Madeleine King, who's one of the more sensible people in this government, has kiboshed it again today. And they remember what happened to Abbott, to Gillard and others who've broken promises earlier on. It's not even the content of the issue, it's the breach of the promise that sort of breaches public trust.
And then you've got to front up for another election, Prue, and try and tell people, you promise you'll do this, and they go, well, hang on a second.
Well, what annoys me is that everybody knew, Blind Freddie knew that the economic headwinds were coming. Yeah. Now they're saying, oh, you know, Chalmers is trying to say, oh, it's a lot worse, and of course blame the government for the kind of subsidies they needed to do while it was
They knew what freight train was coming.
They knew it was coming, and now they're doing this, and they're really expecting the taxpayer to get them out of a pickle rather than them tightening up. Get rid of the voice. Get rid of your climate change nonsense. All the other amazing statutory bodies you're setting up and what have you. They're spending the money. Anybody with a budget knows you have to pull your head in a bit. And they're wanting us to wear it. Well, it's not on.
Find other ways to do it.
Exactly.
The Prime Minister has played the integrity card again, Michael, by banning political fundraisers in Parliament House. I want to ask you, Michael, firstly, did you ever hold a fundraiser in Parliament House?
Not that I can remember. I may have. I certainly held lots and lots of meetings, but they were sort of public-spirited, whether they're for local issues or international issues.
OK, let me ask Holly. Holly, have you ever run a fundraiser in Parliament House?
Have I? Yeah, absolutely I have. I used to host a cocktail party on the Monday night before budget, and then I participated in the budget night dinners that we held in the Great Hall.
What's the big deal? Why would he take this power away or take this opportunity for people to go into the Parliament House and be part of the...
I don't get it. I don't get it, Chris. No. I don't get it. I mean, if people are paying for it, of course, Holly and I, if we did a fundraiser, should pay for the meeting place. But,
of course
you know,
we do.
Aren't politicians or people who are interested in political parties Australian citizens too?
Exactly.
But of course he's got the unions.
I mean, I've already had people...
Holly, you know, the thing is, he's got the unions subsidising him. He doesn't need to fundraise, does he?
A bit of that.
I reckon it's the political tactics that, you know, skewer the Libs and everybody else because they won't have the funds.
He didn't need to do this, did he?
No, he didn't. It's just... What is it? A distraction, tokenism. All
right, I want to get back to you. We've got a fascinating insight into how the Victorian Premier's strict COVID regime went down with his police force this weekend, because Police Chief Shane Patton says he's bruised about what his men and women had to do during lockdowns. Michael, Dan Andrews made the rules, but it was the police force that had to go into the front line, and they copped it heavily, didn't they?
Well, the police commissioner's not half as bruised as the people who got a rubber bullet up
True.
their bottom when they shot them outside the shrine. I think the police went too far, gassing that poor woman in the culvert, the elderly woman, arresting that pregnant lady in her gym jams. The police have some discretion, and I think the Victoria Police, and indeed this Victorian government, it's a black mark against them how authoritarian Victorian Labor behaved. It's a shame. It's a shame against Labor values. If this had been done by a Liberal government, they would have been hung from the rafters. And I just think authoritarian behaviour like this by the police is inexcusable, and the government shouldn't have tolerated, and the police minister at the time should have been kicked out.
Holly, do you have any sympathy at all for Shane Patton?
No, not at all. And I mean, I think we all saw those footage when we saw people being pinned to the ground because they were at a playground during lockdowns. And I mean, I've spoken to friends in Victoria who've told me stories about going to the supermarket and being pulled over by police and having to show either the receipt, if they'd already been, or provide information in their driver's licence of where they live to ensure they were going to the closest supermarket.
Yeah.
It was some sort of tyranny in Victoria and Melbourne that was being let run, and it was certainly being facilitated, I think, by the police. I think some were uncomfortable with what they were forced to do, but those instructions would have come from the top. I think to those people in Melbourne who are genuinely suffering from some quite post-traumatic stress disorder after being locked down and locked away from friends and family for so long, it's a bit insulting for him to come out saying that he's feeling bruised.
Okay. Earlier tonight, I covered this outrageous policy from the Central Coast Council, which had banned the Aussie flag from flying in its town centres. The word offend was used. Prue, the council was sacked earlier this year. Maybe that's exactly what should happen to the administrator, do you think?
100%. I mean, I thought that with the administrator that we were going to get better governance. Wasn't that the idea? Because this is the mob that ran up hundreds of thousands of dollars.
87 million.
Oh.
A debt
Millions.
of 87 million.
So, why is the administrator getting into this sort of virtue signalling?
Yeah.
And how dare they? Look, for a long time, I think councils have been superfluous. We should get rid of a lot of them. They're manned by a bunch of amateurs who are either trying to get themselves into politics and make a name for themselves, or they're social activists. Get rid of the lot of them. They're supposed to collect garbage. They're instead garbage.
Yeah,
get rid of them.
Exactly. Michael, they wouldn't have had a single complaint, would they, about people being offended by the Australian flag? This would have been done on a woke hunch from the administrator.
Well, again, I agree with Prue. I can't believe some administrator would behave like this. It's like the councils that try and ban Australia Day. If you then ask local people about what they believe, if they all love coming to the Australia Day celebrations, particularly the new immigrants. It's such a lovely day for them. And, I just think this sort of anti-Australian woke nonsense is, something that both political parties should stand up against.
Yeah, exactly. Now, finally, I'll get you all to have a go at this. The Sun in London is reporting that Prince Harry and Meghan had planned to make the year 2023 the year they charmed the Queen. It was a strategy, apparently, to heal the rift. But, Holly, you can't walk out on the family and expect everyone to kiss and welcome you back like some kind of long-lost hero.
Chris, the last time I made a comment about Meghan Markle, I went global and ended up on UK television. So, I'm going to try and be a bit circumspect here. But, I mean, the fact that they were just in the UK in 2022, they didn't take the children over. They had no intention of spending any time with the Queen or any members of the royal family, despite the fact they were staying at Frogmore Cottage. You know how I feel about them. I think they were trying to make sure they could bank their Netflix series, their memoirs, their podcast, make the money that they've already sold the rights to all of these explosive stories, and then maybe try and go back cap in hand next year to the family. Well, it would have been too little, too late, no doubt. And I think they've now missed the boat potentially permanently.
Yeah, and Prue, how long did they think the Queen was going to survive for?
Well, Well, they're just misreading everything, Chris Smithy. This is the trouble. It's only themselves. They don't give a stuff about anyone but themselves. They're now trying to backpedal from the book and the Netflix series because they realise it's dynamite. I mean, they are trash. We know they are. And sadly, you know, they've seen the outpouring of love for the royal family and the support, and now they realise they've made a big boo-boo.
That's an interesting point. I've heard that from many people. Michael Danby, do you think that the Queen's funeral taught them a bit of a lesson?
It did. I think they thought they'd have it, you know, be able to use their book and Netflix series too. But this is going to end badly. Imagine, you know, they face the strains normal in any marriage. It's going to look terrible if Meghan is stuck in the States and Harry wants to go back to the UK. I mean, it'll sort of cause a tension between the US and the UK, which we don't need. Not in this troubled world.
It will. Michael Danby, Holly Hughes, Prue MacSween, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, Smithy.
Okay. Up